Walk through any major city after midnight, and you start to notice something strange. The streets do not really belong to us the way we think they do. Foxes trot across empty intersections, like they own the crosswalk. Raccoons unzip backpacks left on porches with the confidence of someone who has done this 100 times. Because they have. Pigeons line up outside bakeries before the doors even open. None of this was planned by anyone. No biologist sat down and decided to invite these animals into our streets, our parks, our garbage cans, and our attics. They just showed up, and they stayed, and now we have to ask an uncomfortable question. Are city animals quietly domesticating themselves right in front of us? To answer that, we first have to remember that domestication has never really been a human invention story the way we like to tell it. We imagine it as humans choosing animals, training them, shaping them on purpose. But the truth is messier. Most successful domestications started with the animal making the first move, not us. Wolves that were slightly less afraid of human campfires got the leftover scraps. Cats that tolerated grain stores full of mice got an easy meal and a warm barn. The animals took the risk first. We just didn't chase them away. If that pattern is real, then cities today might be the biggest accidental domestication experiment in human history, and it's happening in real time, in dumpsters and parking lots, not in some controlled lab. Take urban foxes. In London alone, there are thought to be tens of thousands of them living among the row houses and gardens, and they barely resemble their countryside cousins anymore. Rural foxes are jumpy and elusive. City foxes will sit on a garden wall and watch you eat dinner through the window. Researchers who study these populations have noticed something fascinating. Urban fox skulls are changing shape. Their snouts are getting shorter, their brains slightly smaller relative to body size, which sounds alarming until you realize it's the exact same pattern seen in domesticated dogs compared to wolves. Nobody bred these foxes for friendliness. Nobody selected them at all. The city did the selecting on its own. The bold ones who could handle traffic noise and human proximity survived and reproduced. The shy ones struggled. Generation after generation, the city quietly filtered for calmer, braver animals, which is uncomfortably close to what Soviet scientists did on purpose with farm foxes decades ago, except this time, nobody planned it. Raccoons tell a similar story, just with better hands. A raccoon in the wild has to work for every meal, digging through mud for crayfish, raiding the occasional bird nest. A raccoon in the city has discovered something far more efficient. Trash cans are basically vending machines that occasionally need to be unlocked, and raccoons have gotten remarkably good at unlocking them. Studies on raccoon problem solving show that the ones living closest to humans consistently outperform their rural relatives on tests involving latches, lids, and complex food puzzles. That is not a coincidence. Living near us rewards exactly the kind of patience, memory, and dexterity that those puzzles require. We didn't train raccoons to be clever. We built an environment that quietly punished the dumb ones and rewarded the smart ones, which over enough generations starts to look a lot like selective breeding, just without the breeding part being intentional. Pigeons might be the most underrated example of all this. People love to roll their eyes at pigeons. But pigeons were one of the very first birds humans ever domesticated, and somewhere along the way, a portion of that population simply went feral and built an entire civilization out of our architecture. Every ledge, every rooftop, every train station overhang is basically a cliff face as far as a pigeon is concerned, and they have figured out how to read human schedules with eerie precision. They know which bench gets breadcrumbs at noon. They know which side of the platform gets less foot traffic. In a strange way, pigeons never stopped being domesticated. They just switched landlords from individual humans to the city itself. Coyotes are maybe the most surprising entry on this list, because nobody expected the coyote to thrive in places like Chicago and Los Angeles. Coyotes were supposed to be wilderness animals, shy and wide-ranging. Instead, researchers tracking urban coyote populations have found something unsettling and impressive at the same time. These coyotes have learned to read traffic lights, not literally understanding red and green, but understanding the rhythm of stopped cars well enough to cross multi-lane roads safely at predictable intervals. They have learned to be almost completely invisible during the day and active at night, specifically in neighborhoods with high human activity, adjusting their entire schedule around us without us even noticing they were there. That is not instinct passed down from ancestors who never saw a city. That is learning happening within a single generation, animals rewriting their own behavior to fit a world we built without asking them. And then there are crows, which honestly might be the smartest example of all. Crows in cities have been observed dropping nuts onto crosswalks, specifically, timing it so cars crack the shells open and then waiting for the light to turn red again before swooping down to collect the pieces, using human infrastructure as a tool, the same way a chimpanzee uses a stick. Crows also remember individual human faces for years, distinguishing between the person who fed them once and the person who once threw a rock at them, and they pass that information on to other crows who never even met that human directly. That is not a passive animal stumbling through our world. That is an animal actively studying us, adapting to us, and in some sense, negotiating a relationship with us on its own terms. So here's the bigger question hiding underneath all of this. If domestication has always been less about humans choosing animals and more about animals choosing to adapt to human spaces, then maybe the process never actually stopped after dogs and cats and cows. Maybe we just assumed it stopped because we weren't the ones doing the choosing this time. Foxes are changing shape in our gardens. Raccoons are getting smarter in our alleyways. Coyotes are learning our traffic patterns. Crows are remembering our faces. None of them asked our permission, and none of them are waiting for us to notice. They are simply doing what every successful species before them has done, finding an advantage and quietly taking it. Maybe the next domesticated animal isn't something we will choose in a lab or a breeding program at all. Maybe it's already trotting across your street tonight, watching the traffic lights, learning your schedule, and slowly becoming a little more comfortable around creatures like us with every generation that passes. We like to think we are the ones in control of which animals get close to us and which ones stay wild. But cities might be quietly proving otherwise, one trash can, one crosswalk, and one curious animal at a time.